Good morning, everyone. As I promised you, I will I will try to explain how to use the instrument we use to observe teachers. You have during this week, you have to go to the closest center in your community and observe one teacher in one shift, morning, afternoon, or night. Take some pictures. You need to print this observation form, which is going to be available and uploaded in one of the folders in the drive. Then you print it, and you are not supposed to observe all the criterias that this rubric has, but only one or two will be enough. All I want is that you get familiar with the process, the observation process that you are going to be exposed to as well once you're hired. Well, let me start by explaining you. As I said before, the complete rubric has lesson planning. That is one of the criteria to be observed. Academic time usage, instructional delivery, which is very important, and learning environment and classroom management, the assessment and lesson effectiveness. Once you observe the whole rubric that is based on 30 points out of the whole rubric, that means that if you get 30 after you're observed as a teacher, you're doing a great job. Here are I mean, the first part of the rubric is the center. You will write the center you're visiting, the teacher's name you're observing, the class that you're observing, morning, afternoon, or night, how many students are registered. You ask that question to the teacher being observed, and then you count the students in the classroom to make sure that the amount of students registered are attending class that day. The level, which is intermediate two, or now is advanced, the unit schedule and the unit taught. You ask the teacher, what unit schedule for today? And then you look at the board and you say, okay, yeah, the unit taught matches the unit schedule in the calendar. And here you write your name, observer's name, your name. Don't forget to take pictures of the teacher's procedures. And in that picture, you must appear. Well, here are the performance ratings and the descriptors. 5, you're going to write a number based on the observation and evidence you observe here on the right. Then you are going to check the criteria that you observe, and you have an option not to check or put an X on the criteria you do not observe during the class time, the block observe. As stated before, please select only one or two of these criteria to be observed. Don't complete the whole observation form because you're going to spend in class approximately 1 hour, no more than that. As I said here, number 5 is mastery. Number 4, fully developed. Number three, adequately developed. Number two, developing. Number one, undeveloped. And if you don't observe any of these criteria, then you write a zero, not applicable for this lesson plan. If you decided to observe the lesson planning, you need to ask the teacher for a copy of his lesson plan and check the criteria you observe. Here you need to write the the evidence observed. Um, you check if the lesson objectives on board are aligned with block observed. Then if you don't see any objective written, then you put an X or you don't check that criteria. Lesson objectives are measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, and adjustable. You know it when you compare or you check if the teacher wrote the lesson objective with Bloom taxonomy and you read the objectives. If you see that is measurable, they can achieve it during the lesson or at the end of the lesson, you put a check on it. You can also observe if teacher use Bloom's taxonomy levels. Every day, they are supposed to teach new content. So teachers must start with the correct level of thinking of Bloom's to introduce new content, knowledge, remember, and then application. So it's not correct to start with application verbs or an application level of thinking or a higher level of thinking if students don't know how to apply the content. Appropriate materials and resources have been outlined. The lesson plan and the block observed have shown clear structure, warm-ups, presentations, group, pair work, and a logical sequence of procedures. In this page, you're going to write down the evidence observed. And if you observe that everything match the criteria, then you write number 5. Depending on what you observe, you will write from 5 to 0 or 0 to 5 right here. If there is any area for improvement, you write it down. Then if your second criteria to observe is the academic time usage, then you check if the teacher allows appropriate amount of time for each stage of the lesson with regular pacing and content coverage, not too fast, not too slow. The teacher doesn't allow students to drag class activities longer than they should, however, gives them reasonable extra time to finish tasks when it's necessary. Block observe relates with academic time usage. Teacher doesn't go off the topic. Teacher utilizes smooth transitions, and there is a clear difference between the teaching block. So you check the criteria observed, and then based on that, you put from 0 to 5. Don't forget to write the evidence observed that make you check the criteria. If you decided to observe instructional delivery the way the teacher teaches, then you check what you observe. Teacher demonstrates mastery of educational strategies, techniques, and the use of resources. So you have to observe the teacher, what strategies he uses to teach, if he uses grouping strategies, approaches to address teaching in a correct way, an easier way for the students to learn and apply the knowledge, and you check it. If the teacher does not fall into teaching talking time patterns, teacher models the class and students talk. But if you notice that the teacher speaks more and talks more than the students, then you don't check that. If the teacher engages and maintains students in active learning and links to prior knowledge, he connects the present class with the previous one and keeps students engaged, communicates clearly, and checks for understanding. If the teacher demonstrates consistent mastery of standard oral and written English in all communication. If the teacher incorporates technology and gamification to enhance students' learning. If the teacher uses communicative approach and actively promotes pair and group work. If the teacher uses critical thinking in class. If you notice that these criteria are performed by the teacher, you check all of them and you assign 5 in the rating here in the rating side. Side. Then you write the evidence you observe. Then if you decided to observe the learning environment and classroom management, then you check the criteria observed. The teacher enforces code of conduct throughout the observation period. Teacher maintains all the students engaged in active learning. If the teacher creates a student-centered environment, free of bullying or mocking, and minimizes disruptions, that means that the general sense or a specific sense of this statement is that the students are involved in active learnings and they do 90% of the actions instead of the teachers trying to do everything in class. Teacher respects students' diversity, including race, gender, social status, and special needs. Teacher actively listens and pays attention to all students and keep them engaged, especially the strugglers. Teacher uses a variety of grouping techniques and seating arrangement is evident. So if you seat everything, then you write 5 over here, depending on your observation. If there is something that needs improvement, you write it down, then you talk to the teacher at the end of the observation. Assessment. If you decided to observe how the teacher assess learning, check this criteria. The teacher effectively collects information from students' output. When students speaks or talk, teacher is paying attention to make a final decision. Give feedback. Formative assessment activities are aligned with learning objectives. The activities that you noticed teacher implemented during the block observe matched the objective and gives him an idea of the lesson objectives achievement. Strategic teacher questioning is used to direct students toward salient elements of the content, process, or performance. Gives constructive and frequent feedback to students on their learning. Remedial activities are carried out when necessary. So if you notice that this happened during class time, you rate 5. You write the evidence and lesson effectiveness It's just at the end of the block observe, if you notice that when the students or the teacher complete the process, if the teacher systematically assess every student's mastery of the objectives in the block observed and addresses shortcomings in their output, teacher made sure to include students who didn't answer questions or actively participated in the task. If the teacher explained the target language successfully so that her students were able to apply it during controlled practice and or authentic task with high degree of success. If the teacher put in place effective measures for error corrections and pronunciation issues that student might have shown during the production stage. At the end of the block observed, students expressed very little number of doubt or questions that could indicate lack of understanding of the target language that was taught. Then you are going to focus on two of these criterias, not all of them, two. And you are going to check what you observed during the block observe. Based on that, you are going to assign a number here and rate the teacher's performance. If there is something the teacher needs to improve, then you write it down and you talk to him. Um, Finally, when you complete the observation, you are going to write comments here as the evaluator. How do you feel during the class? Observe. If you have, if you want, you can start by highlighting the teacher's strengths, and then you write down the area for improvement and some suggestions on how to improve, how to make the job better and improve his performance, giving him some suggestions, recommendations, or advice. You sign and ask the person to sign. Well, remember that you need to print this and take some pictures where you appear and upload the observation form to a folder with your name, which is going to be your portfolio in digital. But you also have to bring the observation in the portfolio you have next Friday for me to see it and sign it as well. If you have any questions, you can post it in the group or send a question and ask me directly in private. I can answer any question or doubt you may have. But try to do this during this week because I need that evidence. Well, that is all for now. Thank you for watching this video. And remember that your active participation will be taken into consideration for your final score. So I would like you to participate as much as possible. See you next Friday. Okay.